Synthetic division takes a little while to master, so be patient as you work synthetic division type of problems. In this particular example, the first thing that I need to do to perform my synthetic division is take my original polynomial p of x, and I need to rewrite it so it's in descending order, and I also need to make sure that I'm not missing any powers of x. So p of x, we notice that the largest power is x to the fourth, so I need to write that particular term first. We also notice that we're missing an x cubed term, so I'm going to write plus 0x cubed. And then minus 12x squared plus 8x, and then plus 4. The next thing I will do is identify what my c value will be that I will use in my synthetic division. To figure out the c value, I would basically think what would make my divisor 0. Well, I know that c equals -2 would make x plus 2 equal to 0. So to perform my synthetic division, I would start by putting -2 in a half box. Then, to the right of that, I pick off only the coefficients along with their signs of my polynomial p of x. So I would write 3, 0, -12, 8, and 4. It is very important that you include the signs with these numbers. So for example, the x squared term had a -12 in front of it. It's very important that that negative stay with the 12. Now leave yourself a blank line and then draw a line. The first step in synthetic division is to drop this first coefficient down below your line. Once you do that, any number below the line is multiplied by the c value, in this case -2. So I would multiply 3 times -2, and I would put that result up above. So 3 times -2 would be -6. Then I take and I add these values down. 0 plus -6 is -6. Now I take the -6 and I multiply it by the c value of -2, that value that's in the box. So -2 times -6 would be positive 12. I'll take these two values and add them down. -12 and 12 is 0. The 0 that I have below the line, I would then multiply by the -2 that's in the box. So 0 times -2 would be 0. Put that value above, and then I add down. 8 and 0 is 8. And then take that 8 and multiply by the -2 that's in the box. -2 times 8 would be -16. And then I add down. So this result would be -12. The value that I get at the end is always my remainder, so that would be r of x. Notice that the degree of my original polynomial was equal to 4. These values represent the coefficient on my quotient. The degree on that polynomial would be 1 less than the degree of the original, which would be degree, in this case, the quotient would have degree 3. So to write my answer down, I would write p of x equals, and now I basically have to put the x's back in. What did I divide by? Well, my c value was -2. We know from looking up above that my divisor was x plus 2. What was my quotient? My quotient comes from these values here. So I know the first coefficient would be 3. The question is, it's on x to what power? Well, it would be on x to the third. And then minus 6, and I just reduce the powers down. So if I start with x to the third, this would be minus 6x squared plus 0x plus 8. And then my remainder would be minus 12. So I'd close that parenthesis off and then put minus 12 at the end. Now, because I have a 0x term, I would need to rewrite this answer and leave that term out. The only reason that I use zeros to hold place is so that my division turns out correctly. But when you end up with those zeros in an answer, you actually don't want to include them. So I would say x plus 2 times 3x cubed minus 6x squared plus 8, and then minus 12. And then that would be my answer.